And then even between you and I,
Yeah.
that was a good one, actually. Just, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Not communicating my feelings to you.
Yeah.
Because I was more comfortable not telling you
Yeah. And just suffering on your own.
and suffering on my own, like, oh man, I'm upset about this, than just telling you. That's a cost of change. Today's topic is about change. And when we talk about change, we mean a drastic change, meaning changing a majority of your ways and what it takes. Basically, your old life or your new life will cost you your old life. Can't leave very much of the old version of you for the new. As well, you'll be able to see here very soon, Devon's new life involves a lot of mustache paste. My new life has a lot of discipline. Devon's life has gray nail polish, and I am so unsure about how I feel about it. I can't even tell you why I'm uncomfortable with it. Not a journey I want to delve down into, though. No.
Why
It
Boom, baby. Look at that mustache.
It's a good mustache.
Come
though.
on.
I think I know why the nail polish on your fingers makes me uncomfortable.
Okay, why?
I think I know.
All right, shoot.
It makes your hands look sickly.
Makes him look sickly?
Yes.
Maybe.
They're like a color that scream of death or jaundice of some sort, some ailment.
Do you know what jaundice is?
Usually liver to the eyes, I know, but like I would
It's
assume.
also yellow.
What?
Yellow. It's
Yeah,
like you're yellowing.
Yellowing of the
Sclera.
eyes, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's because your liver's failing, right?
Right.
Your liver's
So you
failing
think- Why?
to clear out stuff, right? And so if you were to tell me, yeah, your nails turn a different color when you're jaundiced because your liver's failing, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
Mm.
So yes, it's not jaundicing, obviously, but
But
the color is unsettling.
wow, you're unsettling,
Yes.
man.
Welcome. Devon is now here.
I'm here. Greetings.
He's here. He's ready.
Ooh, with the mustache. Tell me.
The mustache looks fantastic.
I was gonna
Hands
say.
down, it's a great looking mustache.
Come on. A little bit of paste at the end, you know what I mean? And it's only going to get longer. I can like curl it some more.
I can't stop looking at your nails, and the closer you bring them to your face, the more uncomfortable. I'm like, hey, wash your hands. It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah?
Yes. Like, that's the color my car should be.
Yeah, no. It didn't turn out very good.
The nails or the...
Not your car's paint job. My nails look fantastic.
My car's unfinished.
Yeah?
Anyways, your new life in change will cost you your old one.
Yeah.
And
And that's yeah, that's a big change. It's a pretty bold statement. It's one that I think requires more than what you just read off of a sentence on a piece of paper. You know, like there's a lot underneath of that.
Sure, but we can maybe unpack it, dive into it.
Yeah.
So I guess we start off with what is change
Right.
and the catalyst for why you are changing.
Sure.
Because I think that'll dictate your dedication
Yeah.
to changing.
For me, I think I would define, the catalyst or similarly the threshold for just whatever causes you to have that distinctive change, that change that you want to be so life-altering that you give up your entire old life for a new one. And I think, it's different for a lot of people, but universally, it's a threshold that gets met where you say, hey, no more,
You call it a threshold. I'm going to simplify it and say it's pain. How
Yeah,
much
sure,
pain
sure.
do you have to endure from your current ways
Yeah.
to say, you know what, I'm done here.
Yeah.
I need to change.
Yeah. And then it looks different for a lot of people, I mean, some people it's like, maybe losing a job or like being like really broke, just having no money. Some people it's a little more dire, a little more extreme. Some people it's like suicide attempts.
Yeah, that's a big
Sometimes
one.
people get to that. Maybe they're unsuccessful. They say, yikes, like something has to give here because like otherwise I'm going to die.
Yeah, I could see that. You try enough times in your life, unsuccessfully, hopefully,
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
That would be a pretty good catalyst for wanting to change.
Yeah. Sure.
I think. Obviously, for me, I'm going through something like this right now. We know that.
Right. Right.
My catalyst was absolutely pain.
Yep.
But it was the pain I was causing others.
Mm.
And by reflection, it causes me pain, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
My behaviors not lining up with my beliefs or ideals.
Yeah.
So I would say that was my catalyst for doing a complete 180, I'd say.
Yeah.
In my life trajectory, my life path. And it's acknowledging that you have to change is very difficult.
The first step to solving your problems is admitting that you have them.
Admitting you have a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that you have to admit, right?
Right.
Yeah, I would go into steps. That's like part 2 of this whole thing is what are the steps to change?
Sure.
And so admit problem.
What does it look like for you,
You ask me personally or
personally, and then for other people, where do you think that line gets drawn? Like at what point, when you meet that threshold, like we talked about earlier, and you say, hey, this is enough. Whatever I'm doing right now is not working, and I have to make a change. So then when you do, how do you change? Like what does that look like?
I got you.
Start from ground zero. Like what do you keep? What do you get rid of? Do you start from a clean slate?
I'm going to start there with a tangent.
Okay.
It's we look at pain as like this horrendous thing.
Yeah, like we avoid it for some reason.
We avoid pain
because at all costs.
It's a warning of dire to come, right?
Yeah, sure.
If someone's twisting your arm and it hurts, it's like I'm going to break something here soon.
Right.
But that pain is also a real only like feedback mechanism for negative input.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, so definitely.
And I find it really interesting that though we avoid pain because that's the indicator of something bad coming.
Yeah.
That same pain is the indicator that something needs to change as long as you listen to it properly.
Yeah. Absolutely. My favorite saying, and I agree with you, we avoid pain like it's just the plague, man. Like it's just the one thing above all that we want to get rid of. But the reality is that the pain teaches us so much, right? Like there's so much to be learned inside of experiences that do cause us pain. And one thing I think that has helped me so much with my perception of pain and how I deal with it and how I navigate it is that there's a saying, and I wish I could quote where I heard it from, but it says that when the pain is done teaching you, then it will leave.
That's a good one.
Yeah, then it will leave because, and that's applied to so many different things in my life. Like most notably relationships for sure, because I reflect back on them so hard because I obviously want to do better and I want to, not make the same mistakes again. But it's timely. Sometimes it's very time consuming, to work past those things because that pain sticks around with me so long. And part of that might be because I kind of overanalyze potentially sometimes.
You and I both, yeah.
But I just comb through things so deeply. And I used to not, it used to be just so easy to be like, oh my God, thank God I got out of that relationship. That was just terrible.
You son of a diddle.
Yeah.
It's funny though. You're sitting here claiming about how you overanalyze things.
Yeah.
Yet you criticize me for when I overanalyze things. I'll literally be telling you
it's a fine line though, right? It's tough.
Where do you call that line though?
I think realistically, the end all be all is up to you. You're the one suffering. You're the one, either overanalyzing or combing through things too much. So it's up to you. But
I'm just finding it funny.
Yeah.
Because you'll claim you'll overanalyze. The moment I start doing it, like, hey, buddy, slow your roll. It's fine. It's fine.
Well,
you got to move on. You just got to move on.
It's a balance. It is. It is. And I think that, sometimes I'll catch myself, doing that, coming through a little bit too much, and other times the lack thereof, So it's just.
So effectively, pain is the mechanism that most of us run away from.
Yeah.
We really shouldn't. We should listen to what's hurting.
Yeah.
Identify what's hurting, and then commit to change. Not only to prevent the pain, but to hopefully promote the difference, right? The other side of what pain brings.
Sure. Yeah, everything except for the preventing pain. Honestly, I mean, at this point in my life, I welcome it. There's just so much to learn from it, and like in that pain, it brings change, man. It does. It's inevitable. Pain will bring change.
Saying I welcome pain is a little difficult. I would say that I welcome the learning
Yeah.
opportunity that pain brings. I don't think pain is a good thing to have. You shouldn't just be in pain because, oh, the good is coming. No, like pain
It's just
is
part of it. You know
it's
what I mean?
just an indicator, though. That's what I would say. Pain is indicating something is off,
Yeah.
and I think you should look forward to not towards the pain, but towards the opportunity in front of it. Right?
Okay.
Like one is masochism, and then
Yeah.
the other is saying there's something to benefit.
No. Come on.
He's covered head to toe in tattoos. I have told him time and time again, what are you running from?
I am taking such a big break after this. I've had enough because like I'm doing my back right now.
I've seen it, yes.
Yeah, I've had enough.
I've
Because I've been getting tattooed like constantly for the past 2.5 years.
Yeah,
probably.
no, I've seen it.
Like constant, and I just the pain. I don't like it anymore.
Again,
Yeah.
my opinion on people who get tons of tattoos, go to therapy. You're just trying to cover up
I am
pain.
in therapy.
That's all it is. You want to feel it physically.
I'll still
instead of
always fight
emotionally.
you on that. I think it definitely can be that, but also I just enjoy the art, man. Like when I was a little kid, I was naive. I was not in this emotionally damaged state. Even when I was a kid, you know, like you put in like the little quarters in the machine and you get like the little tattoos you can put on with the warm water. All over.
Different situation.
How so?
Those don't hurt.
Well, maybe
You
not,
can
but-
like art and enjoy that they're on your skin, right?
Right.
It's when you commit to thousands of needle pricks. It's death by a million cuts here.
It's not death for
It's-
one.
it's-
Okay, it's not death.
You're hiding something. You're putting something away.
Nah,
And that pain
I think this is why we
shielding
differ
something.
on the you
That's
don't
fine.
think that the welcoming the pain's a good thing, and I do because it's just part of it. You know, like that's like I enjoy the artwork sincerely, but the pain is part of it. It's just
The
how
pain,
it is.
I would say the pain is kind of the it's part of that journey. It's
Yeah.
what it takes to accomplish what you're doing, right? It's
Yeah.
the work you're putting in,
Yeah, certainly.
right? Which that brings us back to like the steps of change,
Sure.
where we start to say, okay, so I admit there's a problem.
Yep.
Then the question is identifying said problem.
That's what I was gonna say next.
Right.
Yeah, like you got to find the roots. So like, and you'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised where those roots are, how deep they are.
That was a rough one for me, right? Like
Yeah.
again, I can only use my example right here, right
Yeah.
now.
Sure.
I'm the one currently suffering the most out of the two of us, right?
I
You
would
seem
say
okay
so,
these
yeah.
days. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're okay
These days I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
I would say I have been struggling for the better part of 18 years with this
Okay.
stuff, right?
Sure.
It took me up until recently, I would say the past 2-3 years,
Yeah.
to admit there was a problem.
Wow.
That was the hard part, right?
Sure. Yeah. Always is. Always is.
As introspective as I like to convince myself that I am,
Yeah.
I'm constantly analyzing my behaviors. I did not see a problem myself. I just kept saying, no, when outside things change, I will become comfortable again.
Yeah. That's a rough place to be.
It's a rough place to be because you're constantly
It's a
saying,
damaging perspective to have.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a, you know, seems like an attainable goal in an impossible environment, you know?
Yes, because you constantly think, well, if I just work a bit harder, I'll get to a different environment where everything's fine then.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
No.
You need to be able to survive in any environment.
Yeah.
It's kind of growing up and becoming an adult, I'd say.
Yeah, sure. But then you see people who are like, you know, been an adult for like 30 years, still haven't
Why are
done
you
it.
still broken? Why haven't you worked
Right,
on this,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
So my thing was admitting the problem took me roughly 16 years.
Right.
Okay?
Took me, oh yeah, right about 16.
Yeah, right about 16
I mean,
years.
took me probably 24.
See, it takes time.
Dude, honestly, like I would say the most radical changes happened in my life like the past couple years,
Same.
for sure.
Absolutely same. I am not the same person I was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I would say every time I started the change, as difficult as it was,
Yeah.
something changed. Whether it was right or wrong, something changed. So that's one thing I'm happy about. But it took me roughly 2.5 years, it's about 16 years to get to the point of like, okay, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And then figuring out the problem was just as hard.
Oh, sure. It almost takes just as much, maybe if not more. more time than admitting that you have the problem, right? Like,
I don't know about time-wise. I will say that trying to identify that problem led me down a lot of different paths that were like dead ends or red herrings, right?
okay.
Like you believe you found the problem,
Yeah.
but the truth of the matter is you found another symptom.
Ah.
And
Yeah, it's not the root cause, more of a branch off the tree of.
yes.
Yeah.
And not to make, I guess today we can make it about my situation because it's the only thing I can compare it to right
Sure.
now. But
Yeah.
so I would say by 2 years ago, approximately, maybe a year and a half ago, I can't remember the timeline exactly here. I kept thinking, well, you know what? The problem is I don't feel like a man.
Ooh.
I don't feel like an adult. I don't feel like
Which
a
seems
man.
like it, I feel like even if some people won't admit it, a lot of men struggle with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't feel like a man. I did masculine things,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like a man. Like I look at my father, I'm like, that's a man.
Yeah.
That guy knows what's going on. He's got
Right.
he's got the people in his life covered. He's got it. And I kept thinking, well, what is it? What is? I run my own business, and my income fluctuates tremendously.
Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, well, when I'm a married man, husband, a father, like I should have stable income, and maybe I don't feel like a man because I don't have enough money.
Okay.
And not having so much money, it's the ability to generate money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if the money keeps flowing, you'll be fine for life.
Yeah. One of those external factors you were talking about.
Exactly, external factor. And so I went down this road, a God-driven road. I will say that because for me, I get closer and closer to my God each time.
Yeah.
And so I got a little closer to God, and I sought out more money.
Yeah.
In proper ways. I wanted to make money. And so I started making more money. And I was still broken.
Mm-hmm.
And this time it cost me a lot. I mean, it cost me a lot of pain for myself and especially pain for others. And that pain for others caused me more physical pain.
Yeah.
Watching people in my life love me and scream at me and say, "What are you doing? You're still hurting us. We don't get it.
Yeah.
Why do you keep doing it?" And I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. I'm doing nice things.
Right.
Right? Not ready to understand. And then finally, I had a visit with my ex while we were still trying to work things out. And I was looking in her eyes and kind of trying to hear her as well as I could, that it finally kind of sank in for me.
Yeah.
Not quickly enough, admittedly. I did not do things quickly enough. That I sat there and said, like, I need to go find actual help. I need therapy. And
Always such a big advocate for therapy. I hope at some point we get a sponsorship or like a...
better help.
Yeah, please. I would love that. That'd be so cool.
It was going through therapy and starting to piece together that I actually had tons upon tons, 18 years worth of childhood trauma.
And man, that's one of the more common ones, like childhood trauma, usually. Like it's so far back and you're like, you're in like your late 20s, your mid 20s, your 30s, 40s. I mean, whatever. The age isn't quite as important, but like that to me was shocking. Like to me in my head, I felt like when I was starting to explore, hey, where is my pain rooted at? What is the cause of this behavior that is now being demonstrated in my adult life? And you figure something like you said, like money, a recent relationship, a recent breakup, you would think that would be where it stems from, but no. It's so far back, and usually it's in your childhood, man, because that's when we're just, our brains are forming, we're just like little sponges, like we just absorb everything, and you'd be surprised how long it sticks around. I mean...
I think the worst part about all that, with how long it sticks around, right? It's like the typical little short adages that you hear. Hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I had so repressed these things. I had repressed for so long the pain I was living that I had kind of scarred over it and just felt like everything was fine. But my actions, my behaviors were completely out of line. Absolutely. I could not do the simplest of tasks that I thought I was doing just fine at. Instead, I would blame external factors,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like I couldn't commit to my ex.
Which to me is like another like demonstration or an example of like avoiding pain.
Yeah,
Because I mean, it's
absolutely.
painful to admit that like, nope, that was on me.
Yep.
It's easier to blame the external factors, right?
It's so easy, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, it was always inside of me.
Yep.
And again, my my thing comes to, I had to identify the problem was in me,
Sure.
right? Because I had pain from a childhood. Okay, identified the source. Now I had to identify, how is that affecting me?
Yeah.
I identified that because I had childhood pain, I had decided to be mean to myself. And I also discovered that I was in, avoidant attachment style.
Oh yeah, finding out your attachment style, super helpful. It's so amazing.
Figured out that
Oh
when I am given affection,
yeah,
because I was so beat down as a child,
yeah.
I push it away. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
It just
And
does
it's like
not.
not that you don't want to be loved. Like so like that's like one of the misconceptions about avoidance is that like, you know, they either hate, they don't want to be loved, like they're afraid of it, like maybe a little bit of afraid of it, but the reality is that generally people with avoidant attachment styles want so bad to be loved and to give love even, but it's just overwhelming to them, you know.
100%. I remember when my parents would give me affection,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like weirded out by it.
Yeah.
Like if you give me a hug, you give me a kiss on the cheek, whatever, like I'm fine. When they would say nice things to me,
Yeah.
I would become wildly uncomfortable.
I would say I also do the same thing. Like I'm not so much like an overall avoidant attachment style, but I do have avoidant tendencies for the same reasons. Like my parents just like the idea of like love growing up always came with like an attachment or like a condition or a side effect of danger,
Yeah.
you know? So it was like, you're being nice to me. What's coming next? You're about to hurt me.
Yep.
I'm going to be alert and I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to,
Yep.
so.
And that was, for me, it was like, I just didn't know how to receive
Yeah.
kind words or thoughts via graciousness anymore.
Yeah.
Just because I hadn't received enough of it as a child.
Yeah.
And it wasn't from my parents, right? It was from the kids around me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Adults were fine with me.
Yeah.
But I also learned that I couldn't trust an adult's word of kindness because my peers were the ones that weren't being kind. So if the adults said it's because the adults have to say it, they're adults.
Ah, I see.
And so it's the peers that mattered. I got only abuse for call it 14 to 8, 14.
Well, you just got like bullied a lot, you mean?
Oh, tons of bullying, yeah.
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 I was fortunate on that. I never did get the bullying. I was always friends with like humongous people, just like freakishly larger than everybody else. Like I always just had, you know, even when I was a freshman, I had friends that, you know, looked like they could have been seniors.
Well, the problem was the people that bullied me primarily were my own friends.
Ah.
Yeah. That was the problem.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
Thanks,
like
man.
you've created a bond with somebody and now you're just confused and you're like, why are they so mean to me? But like they're nice to me sometimes, right?
Yeah, man, that's tough. Like you said, like when you're a kid and you're just trying to learn and absorb and just understand life
Yep.
and existing, it's such a confusing time.
Mm-hmm.
Like honestly, like everybody hates getting older, and everybody like, or most people you hear be like, it's hell getting old. Don't go getting old. And I'm like, doesn't it like beat the alternative? Honestly, like what's the death?
Yeah.
And then also, dude, I love getting older. The older I get, the easier life gets.
It's
Like the later half of my 20s has been fantastic.
Same.
In comparison. Honestly, if there's any time in my life, like most people say, oh yeah, I'd go back to being young. No, fuck that. I would prefer to just be older. Life is just makes
I'm in
more
the same
sense.
place.
Yeah.
I'm in the same place, right? But I think the reasoning we have for those things might be different. You like being an adult because we both can agree we can do whatever we want now. If we have the money and the time, we can make it happen.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I agree.
But my childhood sucked because I was bullied all the time. Your childhood sucked because of
I just alone all the time.
you were alone. Your parents weren't there for you. You know,
Yeah.
it's some form of trauma or abuse. You know?
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
So I was able to identify the fact that I found out where my trauma came from.
Yeah.
I was figuring out that when someone gave me affection, again, the ex-girlfriend in this case, right?
Sure.
I would reject her. I would push it away.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she would ask me for commitment, I'd be like,
yeah, I'm okay.
nope, I can't do that. I can't do that because commitment is something that a whole person can do.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel whole.
Wow.
And I'd be confused,
Wow.
like, why are you asking this of me? I'm here, aren't I? Like, what more do you want?
Right.
And aren't my actions enough? And like, no, you need to speak it into existence.
Yeah.
You need to act upon it and speak upon it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the confidence or belief in myself to do that.
Wow.
And so, identified the problem finally, right? And
you've identified these, from what I understand, largely through therapy, correct?
yes, through therapy, I had to do some more introspection, but I finally had all the little puzzle pieces, and then I took it to therapy, and then that's when it all opened up. I had to look for the patterns.
Sure.
You know, the patterns were, I think the one that really indicated it for me was that I never showed anyone any childhood photos of myself.
Huh.
When people would ask me, right, like, hey, show me some baby photos. I'm sure they're super cute. And like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I honestly don't have many of myself.
I have zero of myself. So,
really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like that for me is partially just because we had a house fire when I was a kid. But
Gotcha.
so a lot of those are gone. But I don't know.
No, I can see that. My parents have tons of my baby photos, but in learning that problem, right, then I had to come to the next step, right, and that is, you know, how do you fix it?
So I answered one of those, therapy. I always recommend therapy. Anytime, people ask me advice for a situation, and don't get me wrong, I also have advice to give sometimes, but I think realistically, therapy is so nice, man. And from, at least from what I can tell, it seems like nowadays that's not so stigmatized like it used to be. Like things like BetterHelp and like other, especially like online therapy too. It's a lot more convenient. You don't have to go in person. You don't have to be seen by the neighbor and be like, "Oh, hey, bud, what are you doing here?" Yeah, me too. Like,
both broken. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. So like that's pretty nice. But it's one of my biggest recommendations. Just go to therapy. Just go.
Well, in therapy, right, they start asking you certain things, but you also, like, I think like the identification process is one of those things you have to kind of stick with, though. So you've identified the problem.
Yeah.
You've identified, but then you have to start identifying now too, and maybe I'm backpedaling, or identifying what are the behaviors this is causing, right? So part of that for me was, well, I'm avoidant in my attachment style. That's a bad behavior. I need to fix that. I can't say kind things to people. Not like truly sweet things, right? Like I say, hey, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
If I feel confident that I am an arbiter of what might be a good job, right?
Yeah.
But like I can't say things or couldn't say things sweet to people I cared about.
Really?
I couldn't say to someone, oh, how are you, my dear? That felt weird.
Really?
Because I didn't have, like, what, my dear, what does that mean? What does it matter for me? What does it matter that you are my dear? What ownership do I have over those words or those feelings? Simple, silly little things.
Yeah.
But I had to identify that those were the things, right? And so how do you fix them? In my case, I had to realize that I had value.
Yeah.
And I didn't like realize like, oh my God, I just do. No, I had to shove it down my own throat. Like, you do have value. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, time and these things of like self-discovery are a little more effective than shoving them down your throat. But I get what you're saying.
Well, because like you don't have any way to prove to yourself value other than the fact that you interact with people. And if you're upsetting someone, you had enough value to upset them.
That's a different way of looking at it. Yeah, sure.
If you didn't matter to people, then you'd be forgotten, so to speak.
Sure.
So I haven't had a lot of people try to forget me or been easily forgotten.
Yeah.
It's been relationships in which you could see the pain you've caused.
Yeah.
They're reacting to your pain and to the pain you're causing them. And if it ends up a little bit fiery, you probably had some value and you're probably making mistakes along the way.
Sure. That's one perspective. I do see what you mean on that. I think I would counter that with, finding your value or helping yourself see the value
Should be internal, yeah.
Should be internal for sure. Because like what you're saying is a little bit more like external. Like,
It is.
oh well, if this person was upset by me, that must mean I have value. Like that's still to me like looking for your value outside
External
of yourself.
validation.
Oh, that's a good, yeah. External validation.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that you need to use those as your factors.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been an indicator to me that I had value. I
see.
couldn't find it within myself, but I also wasn't listening to everyone outside. So I wasn't listening to anyone, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
That's fair.
If I was causing pain, I should have been vigilant enough to realize I have clearly enough value, whether I accept it or not, which was my cognitive dissonance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That I'm hurting people in this. And so that was at least for me. And then it became the how to fix. The how to fix dives into what I would call the cost of change,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And that's the big one.
The cost of change.
And for me, I'm realizing that my entire life, which I believe I've had 3 births. I had my real birth, right?
Sure.
July 13th. I had my rebirth at 18, where I went ahead and removed the mole on my face that upset me so much surgically,
Yeah.
right?
I assume that's what the bullying was from.
That was what the bullying was from, right? It was a simple skin birth defect or gift or whatever you want to call it, right? Birthmark, that's the word.
A birth gift.
A birth gift.
That's what mom
The
told
gift
me.
of pain
Right.
for 18 years.
Yeah.
And I remember once I had that surgery, I did it while awake.
Oh,
it was
just like local
local
did, like,
anesthetic,
local,
and they weren't
yeah.
even very good at doing that because I could feel them
perfect.
cutting it out. Yeah, but I was so emotionally hurt, I took the physical pain. I didn't care.
Wow.
I was there. I had
You were just ready to know that
Yep.
you would do anything to have that thing gone.
I felt every fiber, little muscle inside of your skin being cut. It was awful.
Wow.
It was
How old were
horrific.
you?
I was 18.
18?
18 years old.
Hmm.
That was the first cost of change, right? I took that physical pain. So that was my second birth.
Yeah.
And then my third birth would be about a month ago when I started to acknowledge all of these things. I'm like, oh my God, I've been treating symptoms the entire time. I never really fixed it.
No.
I was just like, there's a Band-Aid, it'll scar, we're going to move on, but it was weak skin underneath it anyways.
Yeah. No
Right?
doubt. And then the funny thing is, like, you know, to compare it to like something physical like scars, it's so much easier to open back up. So like when you let like emotional scars form, it's easy to just you know, skin's thinner per se. You know?
Absolutely.
It's easier to cut.
100%. So I was saying the cost of change at 18
Yeah.
was taking some physical pain and kind of rebranding myself.
Yeah.
The cost of change this time, and this is a true deep down change because now the mindset has to shift.
Yeah.
I'm no longer trying to hide who I've been.
Yeah.
I'm trying to embrace who I am and embrace the things I no longer like about that old version of me.
Yeah.
Which if you're just taking, NyQuil every day to fix a cold, you're not fixing the cold. You're
Right.
buying time.
Yeah.
Right? That's all it is. You're covering symptoms. And so now I'm realizing this is the medication, and I have to physically extract all the things I didn't like and replace them with things I do.
Yeah.
So the cost for me now... Oh, go ahead.
No,
Oh.
I'm listening.
The cost for me now is truly committing to my faith. That's one.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a hard one for me.
For
at
those who
least.
don't know, like if this is somebody's first episode that they're watching,
Oh, yes.
what's so funny is that like Fareed and I are such good friends and like we get along and we agree on so many things, but
Polar
surprise,
opposites.
I'm the atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the non-religious one.
And I
Shocker.
and I'm a Muslim,
Yeah.
which I can
It's
actually
just
say
like
now with more pride.
The no tattoos, the
Yeah.
not a piercing on you, fucking Muslim. It's just like, gosh, isn't that funny?
Oh, it's tremendously funny.
Like how are we even friends? How does this just doesn't make sense?
It's called tolerance.
I don't know, tolerance. It really doesn't bother me that you're religious.
But I think we're also very respectful.
That's fair. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't sit here and try to shove, Islam down your throat.
Right.
And you don't sit there and be like, how could you believe in a imaginary man in the sky?
Right. Like, good on you. Honestly, whatever. Yeah.
So I get that.
You're good. Yeah.
Okay. So I go back to the original thought there, right? It's committing to my faith. something I put off for years because I was like, oh my God, I have to learn at least some more Arabic.
Sure.
And then I have to commit to waking up at 5:30 in the morning to do prayer.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, committing to do that 5 times a day for the rest of my life.
Wow, 5 times a day.
Yeah, and being spiritually clean each time that happens, which is not easy. And I'm not saying I'm accomplishing it quite yet, but I'm working at it.
Yeah.
Committing to be spiritually clean, right? That means you have to physically clean yourself if you are spiritually impure.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
For somebody who's not religious, that's just, wow.
And that's actually why I like Islam, for example. But that's just my whole thing, right? It's a lot about discipline. That's like waking up at 5:30, doing your prayer, making sure that, let's say you're at work. Hey, I got to take 5 minutes to go pray, right? It's something you can't hide from people. It becomes very clear that you have to do these things. So that's a thing. And then from there, the next big change is acknowledging the faults that I've had and how they've affected other people.
Yeah, that one sounds good. I think it's interesting. Like the religion thing also seems like something outside of yourself, and like that discipline that you talk about having with religion. Like I've kind of like focused that in towards myself, and that's what's brought me out of, the things that I was feeling and experiencing in life, and how I've dealt with those things. Just interesting thing to add.
So yeah, I mean, we each focus that energy in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like it's time for me to atone for my, we'll call them sins here.
Sure.
Sins against people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine now how many times I've deprived myself of telling someone I love or care about that I care about them.
Wow.
Yeah. How many times did I not tell my mother, hello, my dear, I love you, right? I love you, Mom. That's the best I could push out there.
Yeah.
No matter how much I care, it just didn't feel right coming from me. Or ex-girlfriend, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Hey, look you in the eyes. I truly care about you.
Yeah.
I want you to know, and then provide some kind of stability. I couldn't do it. I could not do it, but now I have to atone for those things.
Right.
And that's a change that doesn't happen for just now. Has to be a commitment.
Yeah.
And then even between you and I.
Yeah.
That was a good one, actually. Just, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Not communicating my feelings to you.
Yeah.
Because I was more comfortable not telling you.
Yeah. And just suffering on your own.
And suffering on my own, like, oh, man, I'm upset about this. Than just telling you. That's a cost of change. And these are all difficult things because we all like to avoid.
It was one of the ones I was going to talk
issues.
about. Yeah, one of the costs of change is vulnerability and comfort. That's probably the biggest cost of change is comfort. God, because you'll never live in it. You will never find change inside of comfort. It just won't happen.
Nope.
You will stay stagnant forever and ever. And I think that again touches base on like the topic, like, or one of the things we were talking about in the beginning is pain and how just desperately we avoid it. When, like, to me, I say welcome it because it is the only thing that will bring change.
I think we'll just disagree there to an extent, right?
Yeah.
I embrace the change that pain brings upon, right? I don't think you should just sit there and dwell and be like, oh my God, I'm hurting. This could be so good.
I do. I get giddy about it, man. I do. I get giddy because
Don't be a freaking weirdo.
like pain anymore, like just doesn't bother me, and I'm not sitting there like excited for the pain. Shit sucks, like especially when like it's something life altering.
Don't you dare. You sit there and pay thousands of dollars for someone to hurt you.
I do, but I'm gonna tell you right now. I go in there and my tattoo artist say, "Hey man, how you doing?" I'm like, oh.
I'm ready.
Yeah, because I just know it's coming. I'm excited for the after, the product that comes after it. But man, I don't enjoy it. I'm taking a break from getting tattooed for a reason. I've had enough.
You need a break.
I need a break.
But that might also be a representation of your emotional state.
You love that. You're grinning ear to ear making that point. I know you are.
Because you know it's not completely off.
Oh, I'm still getting covered the rest of the way.
Way healthier now than you were when I first met you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't regret it, though.
The healthier you get emotionally, which I can see in the decisions you make, right?
By me getting my entire back tattooed?
Your tattooing process is slowing, I'm going to say, at some point here. Not just because it physically hurts, but because you're like, you know what?
Oh, no. I'm still going to be covered head to toe.
Head to toe?
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably not my face.
What?
No, probably not my face. You're right.
No,
Mostly.
no.
I would say like end result probably be 80% body coverage.
Keep it under like.
Yeah, for now.
You got to keep it. No, and as long as you're employed, we'll call it that way.
Right.
As long as you need
I'm
bank
employed
loans
by somebody else. Yeah.
As long as you need a bank loan.
Nah, bank loan. Piss on him.
No, if you're successful enough, you don't need a bank loan. You loan from yourself.
That is possible to do. We could do another episode about that. Be kind of
That's-
cool. Talk finances a little bit.
Absolutely.
So the cost of change.
So the cost of change
comfort for sure.
is
That's
comfort.
my
Yep.
biggest one for me. That's going to be my biggest point.
That's a great way to kind of like whittle it down. The cost of change is comfort in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
The things that you kind of put up with before because they were easier than facing the reality of things.
I always have my little sayings I like to bring up, and I have another one I like, and it goes, when the pain of your current reality becomes more painful than the idea of the unknown, then you'll change. Then you will change.
Say that one more time.
When the pain of your current reality becomes more painful than the idea of the unknown, then you will change.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is tremendously
It's all
good.
these little snippets in my brain that keep me going. And
They just
me
keep
like,
you running,
"Nope,
don't
you're
they?
in pain, but which one's more painful? You know, this or the idea of the unknown? And for
The
me, I'll
alternative.
jump every time. I will jump blindfolded.
You know what's funny?
Yeah, what's that?
I'm realizing some of my toxic little snippets that I used to have.
Okay.
Thinking my ex would be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Right, for thinking this way. And it was a genuine mentality that I had because it was the only thing that brought me comfort
Yeah.
or solace, right? From emotional pain I didn't know I was feeling. She would ask me like, "Why don't you commit to things?"
Right.
I need to have an exit route. I need to have an escape plan. Because if I didn't have an escape plan, I didn't feel safe.
No doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So
I think I can relate to that some. Yeah, I think so.
I would say things like, what brings me comfort in this life? Knowing I can end it.
Yikes, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was tremendously toxic. But for me, it was whatever pain I'm feeling, I can end and
Yeah.
truly end. And that brought me comfort. So when I was in a relationship, she'd say things like, well, I want to commit. I want us to have, more closeness and a bond.
Yeah.
And I would say the thing that brings me comfort is knowing I can leave. Don't want to be trapped.
Yeah.
That doesn't exactly build stability for somebody.
Not the best.
No.
Probably not the way to go about it.
But I understand it now that whole mentality was because I was already feeling pain from something I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
And why would I want to stack pain on pain?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Why add more fuel to the fire?
Yes.
For sure, yeah.
Why- This currently wonderful relationship, what if it turns sour? What if it starts to feed into all the things I used to feel?
Yeah.
Well, I would want to run. And if that doesn't fix it, I'd like to die.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that mentality is now gone. I understand the
I'm sorry,
difference
yeah.
now. But
Yeah.
it took learning, and that's part of the identification process. And I think, again, the identification process is the most important part.
Yep.
Identify every single aspect, element inside of that problem.
I agree.
And it'll
Yep.
be
That's
multifaceted,
tough,
it'll have
man.
multi-branch, right?
Yep. I think all these are good. I think a lot of people get this far. I think the cost of change is where people get hung up.
Oh,
When you have to let go of that comfort, which is a lot of different things for a lot of different people, right? Like for me, for years, it was drinking. Sure.
I remember,
Or nicotine. I smoke too.
It's a
for
good
other
job, by the
people,
way.
Yeah, they're right. Over 3 months now. I'm almost at 4 months sober, actually.
super proud of you.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's insane.
Yep.
Life
doing
sober is,
It's nice, isn't
dude,
it?
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I just wake up, just giddy.
Yep.
As soon as I wake up, I'm like, woo, another day, let's go.
Random question for you. What's the first thing you think about when you wake up? Is it something consistent or?
Ooh, I would say, the smell of outside is like one of the first things that hits me. Like when I can go out and just get that breath of fresh air. For
Nope.
some reason, it's the first thing that hits
I'm
me.
saying the moment you acknowledge you're awake again, even
Oh.
if your eyes haven't opened, what is the first set of thoughts?
I don't know, man. Maybe coffee. It's been coffee.
Is it
lately. I
coffee?
get excited for coffee. Like I started just having like a routine. And yeah, it's like the smell of the coffee or like just the act of like giving myself something nice that I enjoy the moment I wake up. Yeah, maybe that would be.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
because like I just, it's weird, right? So like through my process of all these things we've been talking about, like I realized that I don't do anything for myself. I do now, obviously.
Yeah,
But
you
like before, nothing at all. Like it started out with like painting my nails. Like it's like, I know we always joke back and forth about that and it's funny, but like that's one of the biggest things for me. It's just something that I do for myself. It's something I like. It's something that's for me. And I did stuff for other people all the time.
Why not for yourself?
Why not for me? And then it became like, buying a new shirt or something, or now it's coffee,
It's funny you mentioned buying a new shirt, right?
Yeah.
I'm wearing
This is a new shirt, by the way.
It's a nice
You like
new
it?
shirt. I do dig it.
Nice.
I'm wearing my nice new shirt. I'm wearing my new watch, right?
Oh, nice.
And it's like I didn't used to wear nice clothing
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't feel I deserved it.
Wow.
I feel like I didn't fit in. Like
No
if I
way.
wore that, people would be like, "What are you wearing that for?"
Yeah, what are you wearing that for? So,
Sir,
you shouldn't be dressed nicely.
step back down where you came from.
Right.
Don't you try to escape there.
Yeah.
I was in my own caste system. It was kind of nasty.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, likewise, just me for different reasons. But
We create our own prisons, and that's what I'd done. Just
Yeah.
put myself in my own prison, and
Yeah.
that I think is just like, what is wrong with you?
people do it though, man. They do. I mean, I drank. I mean, I know damn well and good where that leads. I'm a nurse, man. I see what that does.
Oh yeah.
I see what happens when you do that for 10, 20, 30 years.
You have all the motive to change.
Yeah. And still didn't do it for the longest time.
So I would say that brings us to the final step of it, right? It's what change looks like during and after.
You want to go first or me?
I have one too, but
Yeah.
I read a quote. It was
I like quotes. Give me something else.
quotes are good, right?
Give me
They-
something else. Come
something
on.
to stick to. Being lost isn't a bad thing.
Nope.
Because if you're lost, it means you're no longer in your comfort zone.
Ooh.
It's where you're changing. It's
I
where
like
things
that.
start to move, right?
Yeah.
We always look at being lost and aimless, and you feel like you have no direction, but there's usually still something there.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're uncomfortable, and that's fine. That's the best thing
Very
you can do is be
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. Wow. No doubt.
That one shook me up too.
I think so. The thing I was gonna say was that, what does change look like during and after? And I would say one thing first is that change and growth is not linear, and it's not always this like steady uphill. Sometimes it's like a good steady uphill and then like a drastic drop, and like that's okay. But also, I don't think there's any after, right? Like there's during, but it's like it's constantly during. Change is always happening, and like you might have some moments where you reflect back on that change and you look at, and like maybe that's the after that you're meaning, but change is constant. Growth is constant. The work that we put into ourselves.
Growth and change is constant, yes.
Yeah.
But I would say there is a before, during, and after. Okay? Because before is before you admit that problem.
The before affair.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's even before. It's even while you're identifying the problem. That
Yeah.
becomes the during, I'd say. Right? That's the process between the before and the during. And then the after is once you've made the commitment to those changes on how to fix it.
Yeah.
And once you've started to implement them and they become the majority of your actions, not the minority anymore. So I would say that becomes your after. Right? You're still going to change in other ways. That's not
Yeah.
to say that. We're a constantly
Right.
evolving set of people. But you have to put a timeline. You have to show that, you know what? This was a dark period in my life. This is the part where I was figuring stuff out. And I'm currently in a place where, like, I'm better off now.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect,
Yeah.
but I'm way better off now.
I think that's where I'm at. Still desperately working towards, improving myself, but definitely at a point like maybe at my after.
You're in your after,
I'm
I'd
in my
say.
after period of, but I think it's just like when you practice all of these things on a regular basis, those lines blur together more and more. The before, during, and after. You know what I mean? It becomes more of like just a constant. All of these things are a constant.
I would disagree. And
Yeah.
I would only say it because when you identify a problem, that's a marker in history.
Yeah.
Because once you identify the problem and admitted that problem, you can no longer live in that blissful ignorance. You have now admitted, hey, this is the turning point.
Yeah.
There is an after.
I don't think it always has to be that drastic. I think if you keep like a maintenance of these like skills and things like that, like you don't have to have this like life altering point and period in your life where you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like this is the beginning of something like
I would
really
say if it's
super
big
new.
enough.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like again, there's always the maintenance changes you're talking about, which I get that, right?
Yeah.
But there are those big changes as well.
Yeah.
And it could be, and that varies by person, right?
Yeah.
It could be the person that's a night owl becoming a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
It can be life-changing. It may not seem like that big of a deal. You know,
Yeah.
you set an alarm clock and you just do it.
Yeah.
And it may not feel as drastic as the drinker who no longer drinks,
Yeah.
but it's a change. And it's a change that will have lasting repercussions.
Yeah.
If I say, you know what, I'm going to just park 2 spots to the left,
Yeah.
that may not be the life event you're looking for, but it may make
Right.
a difference you need it to. And that only would have come in your after phase because you made other important changes.
Fair.
I think it takes those big old changes first for the rest of the stuff to start lining up.
Yeah, it definitely, at least for me personally, and I've definitely observed it in others, that once you make that one big one, once you hit that threshold, once you admit that you have that problem and you do all these other things we've talked about, it is definitely a snowball effect for sure.
As long as you can properly identify your problem, which was my problem. I couldn't identify it properly.
Yeah, and that might have been your hang up, man. Like you might have got
Absolutely
hung
was.
up in step 1 and now you're okay with the step 3 where I feel like a lot of people get stuck in giving up that comfort.
Yeah.
You seem to not struggle quite as much there.
My life is always discomfort. I'm constantly uncomfortable with things, right? And that isn't a great thing to be touting because, again, being a business owner, I have to live in discomfort.
Yeah.
I might eat this week and not eat next week kind of a thing. So I'm constantly okay with that. But because I'm constantly okay in discomfort,
Yeah.
I figured that my problems weren't that big.
Wow.
Yeah. I have to be
Crazy,
careful with
man.
that. And again, I will say that one of the big things that I figured out in the after phase is that being stoic, right? I can only control my insides,
Yeah.
how I feel, how I react, how I deal with things, and really understanding and accepting that
Yeah.
helps me deal with everything else.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big one.
No doubt.
Any closing thoughts, sir?
Man, I think we touched base on a lot. I think hopefully that helped you guys, helped the viewers. Maybe I don't sit here and claim to be a therapist. That's why I always give my advice, but then recommend, hey, you should probably go to therapy. That's the
This is
best
my
advice
advice
I can
for
give.
me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully that gave people some insight. Hopefully it was personable. Give people an idea of maybe where to start if they don't know where to.
Hopefully it was a bit raw too.
Yeah, because some
hoping.
like our other episodes are a little bit funny and jokey.
This was a lot less funny.
This was a pretty serious one.
Yeah.
I liked it though. It was good.
There's a good energy to it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
still sad, but like I can work through these things now.
Right. You're gonna get it.
I'm gonna get out of this. We're gonna be
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. We're all just floating on a humongous fucking rock in space anyway. Like, what's it matter? Zoom out. That's my advice. If you're upset about something, just gain some perspective. Zoom out a little bit.
Who knows? Maybe I'll just be NPCs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet. Why do
No.
NPCs have to pay taxes? That's bullshit. That's bullshit if we're NPCs paying taxes.
Because it is the NPC that pays taxes, the ones that have no meaning.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways, thanks for watching Little Pricks.
Yeah,
We'll be here next week.
Woo! Peace.
Bye.